The last week or so, I've been thinking to some degree, it seems as though so-called wokeness is actually the prevailing opinion. In a way, it seems as though wokeness is winning in the United States. And Eugene Robinson from the Washington Post wrote a really great piece yesterday called Wokeness is Winning. And it makes some excellent points backed by facts, which I'm going to get to in a moment. But when I started to suspect that this entire anti-woke framing and campaign and obsession from the right may be a bit of an overplay of the hand that they are currently playing, was polling out of Florida that a lot of Ron DeSantis's extreme anti-woke stuff could potentially backfire because by and large, a majority of the country seems to sympathize with the woke perspectives, even when defined as woke. Now, there's two different things here, okay? Let me give you an analogy. When we talk about healthcare, you could say the government has a duty to provide a basic level of care to everybody, regardless of ability to pay. Very high support for that claim. On the other hand, if you say there should be a government takeover of your healthcare, very low support for that claim. But when we actually dissect what do we mean here and accurately represent what things are, we see that people generally tend to agree more than they disagree with the left-wing perspective on healthcare. The government does have a basic duty to provide an entry level of care at minimum to everybody. If you say to people, are you in favor of wokeness? Versus if you say, do you think that it's important to promote equality of opportunity and accept people who are trans, and businesses should take steps to promote diversity? When you ask people about those individual issues, there is significant support for them. But then you go, well, what about woke? Are you woke? Much lower level of support. Case in point, in Eugene Robinson's piece in the Washington Post, he talks about a survey that was conducted by the Nonpartisan Research Institute, NORC, at the University of Chicago. They do a lot of different opinion polling, and we often cite them on the show. They looked at actual so-called woke issues and found that the woke side of the equation is way more popular than you might think based on what you see on Fox News or elsewhere. On the issue of, quote, accepting people who are transgender, 56% of respondents said either society has been about right or hasn't gone far enough when it comes to accepting people who are trans. The woke positions are a majority. The minority thinks that acceptance of trans people has gone too far. Another example, on the issue of promoting equality between men and women, 86% of respondents say that society is either where it should be or hasn't gone far enough to promote equality between men and women. That's a woke country by their term. Now, of course, woke as a pejorative is used to criticize these positions. But the point here is when you ask people about their views on issues, they very much are in favor. On, quote, accepting people who are gay, lesbian, or bisexual, the poll found that 69% of respondents believe that society has been well calibrated on promoting acceptance or has not gone far enough. That is very woke. And then lastly, on businesses taking steps to promote racial and ethnic diversity, woke beats anti-woke 70 to 28%. Even when you ask about schools and universities taking steps to promote racial and ethnic diversity, again, wokeness wins 67 to 30. Last aspect to this, specifically about schools in the context of banning drag shows and banning books and all of it. When respondents were asked, which of these concerns you more about schools today, given the choice of two statements? Are you more concerned about schools banning books and censoring topics of educational importance, or are you more concerned about, are you in favor of schools doing that and concerned that inappropriate things may be taught to your kids? By an almost 2-to-1 margin, People are more concerned about the banning of books and the limiting of teaching in schools rather than, oh, my kid might be taught something inappropriate. So there's a couple of important takeaways from this. Number one, as another reminder, Reddit and Twitter aren't real life in the sense that ideas can be over or underrepresented in those spheres. And when you actually talk to people just out there, you get dramatically different results. And number two, even the concerted effort of how has it been a year? Has it been 2 years, 3 years? It's kind of all the time warp. What certainly we've seen 1 to 3 years of a concerted effort to go after a lot of these same elements. Despite all of that, it hasn't been that effective at actually convincing people to take so-called anti-woke positions, which I would call in many cases just anti-science positions. And so for someone like a Ron DeSantis, who's about Florida is where woke comes to die and on and on and on, it may help him in the Republican primary in some states, not necessarily even all, but it may not be super useful nationally if he were to win the nomination, Ron DeSantis that is, in running against the eventual Democratic nominee, because it still seems that even after a blitz of 1 to 3 years, just attacking these views and these positions, most Americans actually come down on what is often characterized as the woke position. Will be an interesting thing to see in 24 when it comes to strategy. As many of my viewers and listeners, of course, know, I have many family members who work in the field of mental health. And I think one of the most important things that we can do is to both increase access and reduce stigma when it comes to mental health services. And that's why I am thrilled that one of our sponsors today is BetterHelp. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it is 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 25,000 licensed and experienced therapists, an important word, therapists, who can help you with a wide range of issues. You answer a few questions about your needs and your preferences, and BetterHelp will match you with a therapist that meets your needs. You can then talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable. Could be text, could be chat, phone, video call. You can message your therapist anytime. You can schedule live sessions when it's convenient. And if your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but it's on your schedule and it's at a more affordable price. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Pacman. The link is down below.